Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with an awesome new knife consult video for you on the new Booz Blades Mini Smoke prototype. Thank you to Eugene Kwan for passing this knife along, who got it from William Booz himself. So thank you, Will, for sending this knife out to the internet community to take a look at so that we can provide some feedback and potentially make an even better production knife. So if you guys go back on my channel, you will find the video on the original Booz Blades Smoke. I called it, at the time, Frunkey's favorite front flipper. And that was because this thing came in at a very good price point with excellent manufacturing and some very fun ways to open and close it, as well as an extremely functional design. Having all those things combined into one knife made it very, very appealing, and I think that the Booz Smoke TS1 was a huge success. A lot of people have these knives, but the knife, despite being rather slim, was also very long, and so it lost some of the, I'll call it office carry ability, in the fact that despite being skinny, it was still a rather imposing blade. And in this full murdered out tactical finish, it certainly looks a little bit more aggressive than perhaps the original idea was. So to that end, a lot of folks asked for a smaller version, and here we go. They have introduced the prototype of the smaller version. They're calling it the Mini Smoke, and as you can see, it is significantly smaller. I'll go ahead and line these guys up butt to butt. You're going to lose a significant amount of length on this knife. So why don't we go ahead and get some vital signs on the Mini Smoke here. I just need to find my ruler, which is sitting right here. All right. Up front, it looks like we are getting 3 inches of CPM 20 CV steel. We are coming in under 7 inches, looking at about 6.9 inches of overall length. The handle is coming in at 3.9 inches with an effective grip area of 3.5 inches. This is compared to the original version that was a full 3.5 inch blade, 8 inches of overall length with a 4.5 inch handle and 4.2 inches of overall grip space. So you are getting a much smaller overall package, 3 inches compared to 3.5. This is right at the 3-inch line, so if you are in a place that needs sub 3 inches, perhaps you will keep that in mind. But it is nice to see this coming in an overall smaller package. You are still getting a good amount of blade length on this knife, despite the fact that it is so small. Let me go ahead and bring out another couple of knives for a quick size comparison. I have gotten rid of the M4 setup on my Para 2 and Para 3, but they have been replaced by these excellent Maximet figures here. And as you can see, the original Smoke really favors the Para 2 size, and the new Smoke is even smaller than the Para 3. And so it's a very nice everyday carry size, going to be super convenient in the pocket, given the small length and the small width. Speaking of the width, I'll break out the calipers here, and we will go ahead and get some measurements on these widths. The blade stock is coming in at 125 thousandths, nice and slim, and the handle is 0.417 inches wide, so well under half an inch. As compared to the original one, this came in with 156 thousandths stock, so bigger stock and a wider handle. So you're getting narrower and smaller in all dimensions on the new model. Keep in mind, this is a prototype. Some of these items are subject to change, and we will go over those details. So these, some of these might be slightly different, including the weight. Really, I expect the sizes to remain more or less the same. The original model was always a very lightweight knife, coming in at 2.83 ounces. For a 3.5 inch blade, that's extremely impressive. Take a look, though, at this 3-inch blade coming in at 1.78 ounces. That's right, an entire ounce has been lost from the knife to make this thing unbelievably lightweight in the hand. And so really, I think that is where you're going to notice the biggest difference in these knives. Not so much the performance abilities, but rather that how much lighter this knife is than the original one. So I'm going to go ahead and move the original one off the screen here so that we can do a little anatomy lesson. We're going to break this knife down anatomically and take a look. Up front, we are running CPM 20 CV on this blade. That will be the standard production steel. The original one, I think, came out in S35. They may have done a run in M390, but now we will be getting 20 CV, which is chemically equivalent to M390. I believe these knives are going to be built by We Knives again, which means that we can trust the overall quality and the heat treats on these guys pretty well. What I will say about the blade, there are some significant differences between the new one and the old one. Notice right away the size of this quote-unquote spidey hole / hole in the blade is much wider. This is obviously not a spidey hole, but it's just my term for it. It's wider, but it's still the same length. It allows for more easy access for the spidey flick type opening. One of the complaints on the original model was that this was a rather small clearance, and some folks had a little bit of difficulty spidey flicking the thing. I certainly never did, but this allows for a little bit more of your finger to get in there and just a little bit more purchase to allow that to fly open. Otherwise, the blade is going to be largely the same. Same overall drop point profile, very nice usable blade shape, very pointy tip. The blade tapers very slowly out to the very tip, so you do remain with a lot of stock out there, so it's going to stay very strong despite its small size. I appreciate that they thinned out the stock on the smaller version to accommodate a smaller knife. That's what they should do. That's what all people should do. If they had just shortened it and not made it any thinner, it may have been a worse performing knife. Now it may be even a better performing knife and smaller in those ways too. So that's really, really nice to see. Really appreciative of that. Otherwise, I imagine the same blade finishes will be available. This one is sort of an acid stonewash. I imagine there may be a DLC version and perhaps a more satin version. We shall see as those come out. Sorry. Moving back to the pivot, as on the original one, this thing runs on ceramic ball bearings. This is housed in phosphor bronze cages. One of the changes that will be happening is that the flipper tab is going to be reduced significantly. One of the things that I noticed immediately is that the flipper tab is significantly more obvious and sort of big on this version of the knife, and it sort of ruins the lines. One of the nice things about a front flipper is that it can hide the lines. So what William showed me was actually a new photo of a revised flipper tab. It's much smaller. He also says you're able to get better purchase in order to launch the knife. So we're just going to disregard this flipper tab and what this looks like. But I will say the same sort of detent and action are present on this knife as were present on the first one, making it a whole lot of fun and very easy to flip in all the different ways, including opening with the thumb, opening with the spidey flick, opening with the top flipper, and all the different ways that you know how to open a front flipper, top flipper. So really, really nice. It maintains the Booz style customized pivot, and then you have a T8 Torx on the back, so that's super nice. Moving back to the handles, there will be some new milling options available. I'm calling this one the Ferrari F50 because it's got this huge side scoop. If you kind of turn it like that, it kind of looks like those Lamborghinis and Ferraris from the 1990s with the huge scoops. A lot of cars still have those kinds of things. I personally love the look. I think it looks great. I think when the knife is open, it provides a nice balanced appearance, and certainly it's a ton of material that's been milled away in a very creative way. I really love the way that looks. One of the things that I really like is that it follows the curvature of the blade. If I can get this to focus right there, you can see the blade inside of the handle, and I think that that's really cool. It looks nice. The finishes are well matched. And then as you open the knife, it allows you to see inside. Kind of a neat thing. I like this. If I was going to choose one, I'd probably go with this milling style because I really like it. What I will say is that it tends to be a very polarizing design. Some people like it, some people don't. And so he will be offering some other patterns, just so you are aware. The back side of the knife is very similar in a lot of ways to the original one. Rather plain, no new milling or anything seen on this side. The pocket clip is very similar. It has been moved up in relation to the Smoke TS1, and the lanyard hole has been removed entirely. There does not appear to be any sort of lanyard fixation point, unlike the original one. So for those of you into lanyards, you may be out of luck. For me, that's not a problem. I never use a lanyard, and so that is a welcome revision to see that moved away. Oh, my bad. And then revised in such a way that it allows you to have rather deep carry going on right here. The pocket clip, if I could offer any small piece of advice, it might be to push that thing back even farther towards the edge of the handle and allow for the deepest possible carry. As it stands right now, about this much of the knife is going to show out of your pocket, which is not a whole lot, but I always like it as deep as possible. That's just my personal preference. It may not really be possible. A new improvement over the original one is going to be the floating back spacer. This is something that William wanted to point out, is that this is a technological feat. It does take a bunch more effort in order to get that all flush and all flat like that. You see that in a lot of custom models as a very sign of a very special knife. So cool to see that integrated here. Overall, I really like this. Keep in mind, this is a prototype model. There will be some revisions prior to the production release. Anticipate the release of this knife being in September of 2019 for around $200 to $220, depending on your spec. They will be available as they were previously through the Booz website, so go to boozblades.com in order to check out the information on this knife and follow any updates that they may have. What I will say is that this knife, the smaller version, maintains the excellence of the big brother right here. In fact, it improves upon most of the things. I think the detent is a little bit better. I think it's a bit of a smoother action. I like the size a little bit more. One of the drawbacks of this was that it was still big despite being slim. This is a nice little gentleman's carry right here. Very slim, very friendly. The people are not going to be offended by this little knife as they might have been by this one, and I think this achieves that goal very nicely. A lot of people talk about how the Booz Blade Smoke has a folding steak knife functionality, which is maintained with this smaller version. What that means, it's a very useful and practical blade shape. So I love that they've maintained the functionality, they've maintained the DNA, and they've just made everything smaller. They've made the size smaller, they've made the width smaller, they've made the weight smaller, and the price point is going to be more or less the same, around $200. 20 CV steel titanium handles. What are you going to lose by getting this? This maintains my favorite production front flipper status. Honestly, I'm just super impressed with how these guys how William has engineered these knives and how they're going to go about executing them. I look forward to seeing the full production model and the changes that he's going to bring. Pay attention to their Instagram at Booz Blades, their website at boozblades.com. I want to give a special thank you to my friend Sid for sending his Smoke TS1 for a comparison right here. This is one of his EDC knives, so really great to see this one still in circulation, still in use, and to see the future of the Booz brand. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let's provide some constructive feedback for the Booz Blades folks. And go ahead, click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Head over to Instagram where you can follow me at Dr. Frunkey. If you want to support my channel, I have a Patreon at www.patreon.com/Dr. Frunkey, where you can give me some support to keep making these great videos. Thank you to everyone for watching, and as always, take care.